Hey, welcome today to our awesome podcast. I have here my mom and dad, who are actually the senior pastors of Word of Life Ministries. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for being part of your podcast.
All right. I'm going to give you both an opportunity to answer the different questions. Promise to be painless. The reason why we're doing this podcast is we just want to share with those of us who are millennials, Generation Xers, and now there's like a Generation Z or Y, I guess. And of course, our baby boomer generation, just let everyone know, we have an awesome live testimony of the fact that you could be married and actually like each other. I think at the time of this podcast, you guys be married, for 45 years?
Wow, that's right.
Isn't that awesome?
It is.
So the first question I have, I'm going to turn it to Mom first, and I'm going to navigate over to Dad. So, Mom, we always like to ask you this question a lot. So could you talk us a little bit like how you and Dad first met?
Well, we first met in church at a youth service, and John came in on a Greyhound bus with a minister from Kansas City with a lot of young people, and he came to my church. And I always had an eye on him, but I figured I didn't have a chance, especially when I seen the young ladies that got off the Greyhound bus. They were beautiful. And so the church was filled, and I sat in the back seat of my own church. I don't usually do that, but I sat in the back of my own church. And so John got up because he was the youth, over the youth. I forget what his title was. And he said, when I didn't know then, he had his eyes on me also. And he said, I want that young lady sitting in the back to, come lead us in praise service. And I wasn't going to get up because I'm like, he ain't talking to me. And so he said, so he got specific. That young lady back her in that pale blue suit, I went, oh my God. I'm like, he's talking about me. So I got up and, began to lead the praise service, and that was the beginning of how we met.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And like I said, we've heard this story a lot. Mom always made it sound very dramatic and like a storytelling. And I remember from what she shared, even from Grandma Holland, who is my mother's mom, she talked a little bit about how that was the first time she had the chance to meet Dad. So I want to hear from your perspective, Dad. So when you actually got a chance to talk to your first mother-in-law, and it sounded like she was the one who was instrumental in getting you guys set up for your first date from her perspective. Grandma always had her perspective with a little humor. She's very sassy. From your perspective, how did that go when she talked to you?
How did it go when she talked to me? Well, like a mother, she just said, Minister Hopkins, how you doing, and et cetera, and I forgot exactly how it went, but I know that she was very pleased with me talking to her, and I think she thought she knew. Connie was real shy, and I asked her I think I maybe asked her for her address or something like that. I forget what it was. But anyway, I got her address. I started communicating with her by letters. They call it stale mail now. It used to be called just writing a letter. But now they call it stale mail. There wasn't no such thing as the email and nothing like that. So I would start doing that, and I told her I'd be down to check her out. And I had a span of 4 or 5 days that I would tell her I was to be there. Well, she knew when I didn't come the first day, it might be the latter part of the days. By the time I got there, it was the last day of the week. I did it all on purpose to see how she's going to react and how she looked and her mannerism. And it led one thing to the next, and we did a lot of walking through the areas. She had one place she has a graveyard over there that they have not too far from where they live, and I figured that was a nice place where everybody's quiet at. And we walked through the streets of the cemetery, and we chat and what have you. And I learned a lot from her from that day forward.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are listening, you might think, oh, that's kind of odd. But if you think about it, what was cool about it was the graveyard was literally located literally across the street from Grandma and Grandpa's house, which was my dad's future father and mother-in-law's place. And because there wasn't many places, because it's such a small town, it was a nice decorated cemetery. So what Dad and Mom used to do, they used to walk around and go on dates, just like you would if you're going to Busch Gardens. It was actually pretty peaceful there, as you say. You weren't going to be interrupted by anybody there.
It was right next door to the church too.
Mm-hmm.
So we was in good shape,
Yeah.
Wasn't nobody gonna disturb us from talking to each other.
That's awesome. So of course, what Mom and Dad shared with us many times ago, you guys dated what? How many months, Dad?
Oh boy, it's almost a year,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And about 6 months after we started dating, I asked her engage with her, and from 6 months later, that's when we got married.
And one thing I love about this is for those of you young ladies who are looking for an actual husband to marry, what I liked about what Dad did for Mom was he asked for her hand in marriage, getting her parents' permission, but most importantly, he had a ring and they had a date.
And I had a house.
Oh, that's right. You had a house too. And the reason why I'm harping on that is for those of you who've been engaged for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, if he's serious, let's say, I know every relationship's different. I know some people's situation are going to college together, and they say we want to graduate after we graduate, we want to get married. Make sure that man who's interested in you has a date.
It has a job.
Oh, that's right, Dad.
You don't want to mess with no one that doesn't have a job, because the woman should not take care of the guy. It should be his responsibility, and if she wants to work, it's fine. If she doesn't want her, still fine. But somebody's got to be working around that place. Both of y'all can't be unemployed and decide you want to get married.
Mm-hmm. And Mom, from your perspective, I think what you shared with us was you wanted someone to take care of you. So my question to you guys is after you guys got married, you transitioned from dating to asking for hand in marriage and going your honeymoon, which I think you said y'all went to Worlds of Fun for a honeymoon. Yeah. Now, here's the big question that I think is important for folks who are considering marriage. Did you guys get in a lot of debt when it came for planning for your marriage and your honeymoon?
No, we didn't go on a lot of that like couples do today. Get a wedding planner. They just get all of this expensive way they want their wedding to be. No, we didn't do that. My aunt and my sister made the wedding cake, mm-hmm. And I had a beautiful dress, but it wasn't expensive. Mm-hmm. We got married in my home church. Mm-hmm. Didn't have to pay anything for that. Mm-hmm. So we saved all kind of money. Mm-hmm. My brother took our wedding pictures. Mm-hmm. So we saved a whole lot of money.
That's awesome. So I love the fact you guys had a debt-free wedding. Not condemning anybody else, but you try to keep it practical.
True. That's true.
So after you guys got married, then 2 years later, your favorite child showed up. I'm playing, y'all. They don't have any favorite children. So my next question, I'm going to start with you, Mom, is how did you guys go from being newlyweds, which you guys enjoyed just having the two of you for 2 years, mm-hmm. and then your first child was born. So how was it like going from that to, and I was calculating that, this was crazy, you guys were raising children for 29 years. Wow. Because there's like a whole 11-year stretch between me and Hope, who's the youngest girl, and of course you had my two brothers in the middle, Jason and Tim. So my question to you, Mom, is how did you guys go from, I guess, what's your top 2 tips you have for women who are going from newlywed to settling they're a mom, in your case, for 29 years. So how did you transition to that?
You got to make sure that you're ready to be a mother, and I was ready to be a mother. So the transition was really smooth, mm-hmm. And so when we were expecting you, our first child, I was just ready. I was ready for it,
Mm-hmm. You just kept that simple. Now, to give them an idea, when you said you were ready, what in your past prepared you to be a mom?
My mother. She was a great mom. You know, she was good. Remember, she's a mother of 15 children, 9 boys and 6 girls. So, you know, I helped take care of the younger ones. So that prepped me. Watching her, her example, it prepped me for being a mother.
That's a good tidbit, Mom. Thank you. Now, Dad, from your perspective, going from being a husband, and then 2 years later, you're transitioning to being a father. And what I think was fascinating about you was, for most of my child rearing, I'm sure my siblings could say the same thing, you end up having 2 jobs. So how did you balance between having 2 jobs, still giving mom attention as a husband, and still having some kind of time with your children to where nobody felt left out? Because I can honestly say, even though Dad worked 2 jobs, none of us felt neglected. So that's kudos to both of you. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, how were you able to juggle that?
Well, you were able to juggle it by having a good wife that's responsible and knowing that she's responsible. She wanted the kids to learn everything they could. It was up my job to prepare her or give her the tools she needed to work with. I recall a time when I was in Kansas City and this one minister was talking to me, and he says, we need, as a people, need to learn how to take care of our women like other people take care of their women. Mm-hmm. And that left something engraved in my cranial cavity that I wanted to use later on in life, that I could take care of her and the kids. And whatever arose in the time, I decided to get another job because my kids, when they was younger, they could eat. And so I got a job just to take care of the eating proposition, as my father-in-law used to say. So I had food. I went down to a place called Sam's, and they'd have everything supersized. And I had enough in the refrigerator for them to eat what they needed to eat until they got tired of eating. And that helped them out, and they would eat all through the night. Well, somebody said, well, that's not being responsible. But it was irresponsible. They ate, in proportion what they needed to eat. They never was left hungry. And that was my job, to be a provider. And the responsibility of the father is to provide for his family because he's the head over the family. Mm-hmm. And in doing that, it was a lot of sacrifices being made, but we found out that through the sacrifice, the kids turned out pretty good, and that's about it.
All right. I love how y'all just keep it simple. And I think one thing just to let you guys know too is Mom did a good job of filling the gap where she'll always let us know why Dad was working. And she'll always tell us, when Dad comes in, be respectful of his time, let him chill, come in, and then once he's ready, he'll talk to you guys. And he always made time for us. And then from Dad's perspective, which I know he won't do about himself he chose Sundays to be the day to give Mom time off. So you often would prepare like a Sunday meal on Sundays to give Mom time. So there'll be moments where if Mom needed that break, even before Sunday happened, we knew it was serious. And Dad's like, stay out of Mommy's room. Y'all stay out there and you stay over here with me. And we're like, well, we need to be our best behavior. We can't do half the tricks that we did with Mom. So we're almost finished with the questions I have. I've really been enjoying this. It doesn't seem like it's been that long. But my next question for you guys is, now you've transitioned. Now you have adult children. Now you have a daughter-in-law that you've known at this time of the podcast for 7 years. And now you guys have 2 grandchildren now. So Mom, getting with you, what do you like about being the grandma?
I just love it. I love my grandbabies. It's so much fun. Playing with them and just watching them grow and, change from year to year. I just love it. I love my daughter-in-law. She's just like a daughter. And I just love the way she's a old shoe. You can tell I'm from another generation. I said old shoe.
And as Dad would probably say, he called Mom old woman. She called him old man. But Dad, I have the same question for you. How do you feel about transition now to granddad?
Oh, I love it, because it's nothing new under the sun. The grandkids are doing the same thing that the kids did when they was coming up. They have some of the same personalities and some of the same traits. And I found out that they tried to come and tell me something new, and I found out what it was. And It wasn't new at all, but it was new to them. And in doing it, you had to chuckle and laugh about it. And then you show them some pictures. And the one thing I like, one time my son was telling me about, he had a picture of Connie and myself. And I think I was about 20-something years old. And Connie was not too far behind me. But the grandson said, that's him. But they had my son, we had our son in the hand there. And they thought he was talking about Chris, his father thought he was talking about himself when he was a baby. He said, no, that's me right there talking about his grandpa. That's him 20 years later, what he's going to look like. And so I enjoyed it and chuckled about it, and they're just good to have around them. I don't try to spoil them, but, it's kind of hard to do. And I want to make sure their parents don't have too much problem with them be spoiling them. But what the good thing about it is, when we do spoil them, they got to go back home with mom and pop.
So you took a page from Grandma and Grandpa Hopkins there, Dad.
I did.
Yeah, Grandma Hopkins in her day, she used to wait till Mom and Dad drive off, and she'll look through the picture window, and then she'll like, y'all want chocolate chip cookies? And that'll be when she'll spoil us.
That's right.
You get this here. So my last parting question for you guys is, from a biblical standpoint, how do you guys draw strength from God in not only being married for 45 years this year, but also actually liking each other? So with you, Mom, what would be your takeaway? How God's helped you out with that?
I do give the Lord all the glory and all the honor and all the praise through his Holy Spirit, and how he gave me insight on how to raise our children and to be a good wife. So I thank him for that. I couldn't have done it without the Holy Spirit and the Word of God.
And I like what you said, insight. So for some folks who are tuning in this podcast, they're not unchurched. So when you say insight, how did God give you insight in raising your children?
Well, he would talk to my spirit. He would tell me to study each one of our children. And I would do that, and he would tell me how to deal with each one of you personally, so you can grow up to be godly children.
That's awesome. So you were saying he really taught you how to have a relationship with each child.
Yes.
And she made us her pet projects, which helped. Right. Awesome, Mom. And then Dad, for you, biblically, like, how do you feel like God has prepared you and helped you out in the last 45 years? You actually had Mom longer than her own parents did, as you like to gleefully say.
We grew up. What's it say? What's a good saying? One of your sister says, we grew old together, something like that. Anyway, it means I don't like to be too churchy, because I want to be real. You got to learn how patience in the marriage. You got good points and bad points, and you learn to adjust yourself accordingly with your mate. And don't try to be too overbearing, but try to be more understanding. And in doing that, being able to understand her, sometimes you don't understand each other, but if you stick with it long enough, you understand what's all about, and it'll come out, as they say in the wars. Mm-hmm. So it's been good, and it's going to be many more years of being with her and have a relationship with her. And that's the way it is with God. God doesn't understand her. He's listened to us, and he has a great understanding about us, and gives us space to grow. And as you grow older in marriage, you learn to grow in the fine tunes of respect's all about and love's all about, and giving and taking. Mm-hmm. So in a marriage, there's got to be a lot of giving and taking, and sometimes more giving than taking, but it all comes out in the wash. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that, Mom and Dad, and just let you guys know, Mom and Dad still go on dates. Like, as long as I've known them, they've always found time to go on dates. And what I like about, I know you say, I can't believe you remember all that stuff. I was one of those big-headed kids. I paid attention to a lot, but didn't say much. But Mom and Dad in the early days, when you didn't have a lot to spend, often Mom and Dad would just have days sitting on the couch, and
go out in the park.
Or go out in the park, So, and lately now you guys can actually go out, like for dinner. Dad would still get cards, and such, and Mom still talk about how, you know, he's the best man ever. So that's awesome. So I think what I took from you guys was, you know, keep dating your wife as if you're still,
That's
you know,
true.
trying to woo her, you know.
That's true.
So I appreciate you guys for being a part of this podcast. And
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate you too.
and you guys take care.